keep your shoes on. Really.
Yeah. Could you rotate while you speak?
I guess I'll have to.
Hey, how you doing?
Anyway, God, what a party. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. I just want to go through a few thanks first. Sushma and Fred, you did this. This is the second time you've done this, so thank you so much for hosting this party. And you're incredibly generous, not just to say you can use the space, but to provide all this wonderful food and drink. And I hope all of you eat, after we say a few words here. Sushma is clearly the party planning queen. Where is she?
I'm going to go on it.
Oh, there she is. And Fred, thank you really for welcoming us.
Wonderful.
Okay, did you hear that? No food left over. And also thanks to Sushma's helpers, her sister Sarita, son Alex, nephew Nick, where are they? Thanks to Fred's crew, office crew, for setting things up also, as well as the technology and all. And special thanks to Jane Ditmore. She's the RSVP queen.
I am now.
And I've told this story to a few people, but a number of you who know Jane and love her would write back with the RSVP and say, "Are we going to see you?" And she was explaining this to Terry Irwin, who's the head. Now I can talk about this. So Terry sends me an email and says, "What do you think if I sent Jane with you?" And I said, "That would be terrific." I said, the alumni would love it. Jane would probably love it. And so this is her first time to the West Coast.
And I'm not going back to the snow.
Why do you think we're here?
I know.
And of course, thanks to all of you, to you alumni, for being here. This is really, really special. Not everybody is here that says they will be here. And I was going to say that I've started, when I was head 15 some years ago, I started visiting alumni gatherings because I thought, or I realized that not much attention was being paid to the alumni, and I thought that if we just did this once in a while, it'd be kind of nice, and I'd update, them as to what was going on. And people seem to like it. People seem to like the attention, and seem to like the fact that we did specifically a design gathering as opposed to a mixed gathering. So you're special. And I was struck at each of those sessions at the range of alumni that were there. And my punchline was going to say, and we have Arnold Wasserman, but unfortunately he didn't come.
I haven't seen him.
No. So he graduated in 1956. And is Linda Carruthers here? Did she come?
No, I still have her tag.
Okay, so she graduated in 1957. Anyway, and is Kristen Chun here? Kristen? So who graduated in 2016? Anyone else? So I was going to say, there's a sixth gentleman.
Keep going.
That's late class, right? So anyway, there still is a range of you folks here. And what I'd like you to do is to make sure that you talk to someone from a different decade. Because there are different decades here, So don't just talk to your pals whom you know and recognize, but go talk to someone from a different decade, and maybe even a different color, because I'm not sure if you noticed, but these are color-coded. For those of you who didn't RSVP, you had to make your own black, so you're in a class by itself. The folks who don't RSVP. Anyway, I'm going to read some of this because I worked hard on it. But I also mean it. Anyway, so we all, I mean, I personally, but we all. Arnold.
There he is.
I just said, an Arnold Wasserman who graduated in 1956.
Yeah, well, that was my entrance cue.
Do I have to pin him?
Yeah. Give us
Poor guy's been waiting outside.
welcome, Arnold. Thank you.
And welcome to you.
Thank you. You want to grab a drink?
Yeah.
This way.
Crazy.
Okay, so let me just continue. We all at the School of Design, but personally I can say that I continue to be impressed with what you've done with your education. What I find so interesting, having kept in touch with many of you over many, many years, is what you've done with your education, but made your mark either in practice or in education. There are a lot of you that are teaching, which is terrific. Research, whether it's in design or in related fields. But also, I mean, I love hearing from you, or just going to Facebook and seeing that you're married, or that you've got kids, or that sort of thing, and that's terrific. You're not just workaholics. And coming from CMU, it's normal to become a workaholic. But a lot of you are family people, a lot of you are members of your community, and a lot of you are citizens of the world, and I applaud that. I really do. So, to the reason of why we're here today, my impending retirement. And I've been telling a few people that students in particular at school are saying, "Oh, Dan, what's it going to be like when you're gone? And what are you going to do?" and all that stuff. And and I said to a few people here, it's kind of like I'm dying. Obviously, I'm not. But the answer that I've given, and the answer that I want to give you now, is 6 years ago, Libby and I, my wife Libby, and I were in Switzerland visiting Basel, where we went to school for 2 years, and talking to one of our teachers. And Herr Mengel, he taught us letterform drawing. And he had to retire at 65. There's a mandatory age limit there. And I said, "So what's it like retired? What do you do and all that?" And it was kind of like the student saying, "Oh man, you're retired." And he said, "I retired from my job as a teacher. I didn't retire from life." Good words. That's my inspiration, and he's my role model. So anyway, after 45 years of teaching, I started teaching in grad school. 10 years in Louisville, 35 years at CMU. I'm at the stage where I want a change of pace. My mind and heart know it, so do my muscles and bones. I'm ready for that proverbial next chapter to begin, or to be written, and I've even got the type and images and videos ready. Anyway, the key point is that I'm not disappearing after June 30th, which is my official retirement date. Libby and I will remain in Pittsburgh because we love our house, we have friends, we love the city and all that it offers, but it also offers us a chance to travel and also come home. And why buy another piece of property and go back into debt? So it's fine, it's just fine. And we all have, we have things that we love to do, little hobbies. I will continue taking pictures and doing montages and posting them on Facebook. Volunteering, gardening, cooking, all that stuff that one normally sets aside when you're too busy working. One project that I've been telling a few of you about is an archiving project. So about 1.5 years ago, I realized, when I knew that I was going to be retiring, I realized that there was a body of work that you all produced while you were students and while I taught. And so basically, I'm trying to pull together work from the time that I was teaching, and I'm starting with the motion work because I feel very close to that, and it's something that I introduce into the school. School of Design 22 years ago. So 22 years ago, last fall, in a junior typography class with a beta version of what became Macromedia Director, everybody wrote a few words about what they did last summer, and they animated them. And when we watched what the students produced, I was so impressed and so moved and so like, oh my God, there's something here, you know? And so I thought, we have to keep doing this. So I've dealt with time and motion ever since then. And it's not just in time, motion, and communication that a number of you have taken, but also in typography classes, grad studio, many grad projects with motion and all. So I'm going to be putting together an archive. It'll be a website with topics, which will be the basic, which will be the main project. Little explanation, a few reels of maybe 10, in each, so you can watch it for about 15 minutes and get a sense of what rhythm was about, or what Three Voices was about. And then if you really want to search, they will all be there, starting with 2016, all the rhythm pieces, 2015, all the rhythm pieces, and so on. So that's what the plan is. And instead of waiting till we put the whole thing together, which will take ages, we're going to launch it hopefully late spring, early summer, so that we will have rhythm on board, if you will, and sort of get feedback from people also. Is it sensible? Is this enjoyable? And so on. But I will continue doing this. So this will be one project I will do into the fall and into, I think, several years. I'm hoping that all of you who have motion work that I will probably be posting are okay with me posting them. I know it's proper to ask permission. No?
Well, I don't know if you remember, we didn't have computers when I went to so motion was running down Baker Hall.
Yeah. You have a video of that?
Maybe I do.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I plan to do. And when I finish that, heaven knows when, then I'm going to move to the 2D work. So typography, posters, information design, and so on. The reason I'm doing this is because we have not done a decent job in design, and I'll bet there are many other departments on campus who could say the same thing, of archiving work. And there were two recent events. One was the publication of ID 80, which is a book that Mark Baskinger helped put together about the history of the ID program, which is the first in the United States. They did research at the archives at the university, for the few things that they were able to find. And then 2 years ago, the Carnegie Museum of Art had an exhibition on Peter Mullermann, who was a well-known industrial designer. He was a German silversmith who came over from Germany when he was young and started this thing, and did very, very well. So this was a sort of a look at his office's output, and they did a lot of research at the archive as well. So when somebody, decades from now says, what did they do in graphic design in the 80s? There will be some evidence of that. Or what did they do with motion, that we hear about? There will be evidence of that. So that's why I'm doing this. And I hope also then that other faculty will be so moved to do this. So anyway, that's why I'm doing this. I bring you greetings and good wishes from my design colleagues. They all were excited to learn that we were coming here. They were excited to learn that Jane was going to be joining us. And I can tell you, because this is sort of part of this, it's like the state of the whatever. The School of Design and CMU and Pittsburgh are doing really well. Really doing well. The university continues to thrive. It attracts good students, good faculty, research funds, and even funds for new buildings. And if you've been following any of what's been happening on campus, there is a massive Tepper quad being built on Forbes Avenue, where the Morwood parking lot used to be. And that's going to be enormous. And as we all knew that at some point we would be taking over Craig Street, and we continue to take over Craig Street. We're going to leave the restaurants there. But as you cross the bridge on Forbes, before you get to Craig, there was that gas station on the right, and then it became the electric car thing and all that. Well, that's all going to be a new building, you know, and all that. So there's just a lot. There's really a lot going on. Autonomous driving is huge in Pittsburgh. Huge. You know, I mean, Uber. I mean, we all, those of us who live there, are used to seeing these cars going around with these things on top, going. You know, those are autonomous cars, even though there is a driver, you know, sitting there. But I remember when I arrived in '82, not long after that, I saw evidence of the start of these autonomous vehicles going up Flagstaff Hill, very, very slowly. Yeah, no, I mean, it was this van moving really slowly, and a guy walking behind it with this thing that he was working with. And I remember going up to him and saying, "What's going on?" And he says, "Well, we're trying to make this vehicle drive itself." And I think maybe 10 or 15 years later, I talked to another guy who said, "We just drove a car from Pittsburgh, or a car drove itself from Pittsburgh to DC autonomously." And so anyway, I think that's why a lot of these companies are so interested in working with our computer scientists and other folks. Robotics is a huge industry in Pittsburgh, enormous, absolutely enormous. It's not just autonomous drivers, it's moon lander that Brett Whitaker has already designed, and you know, is going to be part of that Google challenge, right, to get to the moon. He's bound and determined to win that. To other, you know, tiny, minuscule robots that can, you know, go into unsafe places and things like that. But anyway, Pittsburgh continues to grow in many ways. If you've been there recently, you'll see a lot of new buildings. Old neighborhoods are being rediscovered and gentrified, which is both good and bad. The city is proud of our sanctuary city designation. The restaurant scene is booming, in case you haven't heard. And housing, like I said, is just going over the top. East Liberty, Lawrenceville, the Strip District, downtown, and so on. It's really great to see. So during my 3.5 decades at Carnegie Mellon, it's clear the world has changed. The country has changed. Certainly the field of design has changed dramatically. And in response to those changes, the School of Design has evolved and changed. It always has. That's the thing that I think is important when you look historically at it. You know, it kept its eye on what was happening socially, economically, all of that, and said we need to make sure that our students are going to be relevant when they leave school. I think it's been one of our strengths, actually. So while I believe we still provide a solid foundation in educating the eye, the mind and heart, and solving problems to make people's lives better, the context and subject matter of these problems have also evolved over the years. And again, it would be really interesting for students from one decade to another to start comparing what those problems are, because you could say, we talked about this at this time, but now you're talking about this, you know, so on. So in our teaching and conversations, issues of communication join service, environments join systems. The far future is as critical as the near, and the disadvantaged are as important as large corporations in need of good and thoughtful design. Students walk in the design door already programming. Motion intrigues them more than static work, and empathy is considered a requisite design skill. Yes. It's exciting and scary at the same time from the faculty's point of view. But our faculty, bless them, both junior and senior, take on these challenges and bring them to the students, and that's really, really good. They continue to shape our new curricula across the board, from undergrad to master's to PhD. And for that, I'm very proud to have been part of this educational journey. In a sense, I'm, by retiring, handing it over to the next generation, as it should be. And I hope that you also share in this pride for your alma mater. And I want to remind myself of the meaning of alma mater and its benevolent mother. Here you go. So there's an endeavor at the School of Design that I want to tell you about, and it's the new Design Center. Maybe some of you might have heard about it or read about it. Briefly, it will do two things. One is it will be the home for the various research work that's always been done in design by faculty and students. But I think this is equally important, if not more. The center aims to spread design across campus. We always have had students take courses with us and all, but they tend to be in the minority, and in fact, many students complain that they don't get to take design courses because they're only for majors, things like that. So this will actually be conscious in offering things like short courses, workshops, events for students across the campus in collaborative experiences and all that. And the need to learn about, sorry for the hackneyed phrase, design thinking and making has increased over the years, and we are responding to it. But the need, that design's been in the news for the last half decade or more. But when students begin to complain to the head that they are being left out or discriminated against by not being able to take courses, they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. But by listening to that, sorry, what?
Like typography?
Like typography, yeah. He was saying that IED students all should take typography.
Right?
So anyway, so we are responding to that. And currently there are searches for the director of the center to lead it and a faculty member to coordinate the courses. This, I think, is really important work. The provost provided startup funding, which was very kind of him, but the center needs more. So here is my ask of you, because in the past when I've done these things, I've said, please keep us in mind when you give and all that stuff. But that's really been it. I haven't been. But now I'm going to make an ask. When you make your annual gift, if you do make an annual gift to the School of Design, please make it to the School of Design, and please designate it for the Design Center. And if you want to say that it's in honor of Dan's retirement, go for it. I would love to see a swell of annual gifts to design in this year. It would say to the university that our alumni pay attention to and care about what's happening in the school. And there are many of you who do give annually, which we truly appreciate. So I want to recognize the fact that some of you do give on a very regular basis, and we truly, truly appreciate that. But I would love to see all of you give. That would be incredible. I know that many of you are young, you're just starting your careers, and it's difficult to give. I fully understand that. So when you're ready, that would be great. But also keep this in mind. Any amount is appreciated. Any amount. Don't feel like, oh, I have to give a huge one. No, it doesn't matter. But if you can also get into the habit of doing this every year, that would be terrific. Because again, it's that sign that says we pay attention, we do care. So thank you in advance for giving to the school. So in closing, to each one of you, keep up the good work. You all do good work. I know that. You will always represent Carnegie Mellon Design. This is sort of choking up so much. Anyway, I love being your teacher. And thanks again for being here. I'm very happy. And now I'm going to introduce to you the CFA. She's new to CFA. She was at Tepper for many years. She'll tell you how long. And she's the Associate Dean for Advancement. And this is Carolyn Hess Abraham.
So I'm going to keep this very, very short. and then allow other people who might want to say a few words to go ahead. But my name is Carolyn Hess Abraham. I'm new to the College of Fine Arts. I've only been here since November, but I was at the Tepper School for over 20 years. We'll just keep it at that. Teaching, and then in the advancement team, co-led the project that funded the Tepper Quad, which is a huge facility. It's where Carnival used to be, but they're moving Carnival right to the center of campus. But it is going to be a huge total CMU building that's really going to change the landscape, provide a welcome to all of CMU, and it's the first of many buildings that they're going to put on this brand new quad. So we're very excited about that. And I send my best wishes and my congratulations on an amazing career from my boss, the Dean of the College of Fine Arts, Dan Martin, who many of you may know. He was actually here last week, as was I. I don't know if anybody was able to make it to our events. We had one in Palo Alto last Tuesday, and then in San Francisco on Wednesday. Did anybody come? No, I guess not. They were total CMU-wide alumni events. We had over 250 people at each event, and it was with the president of CMU, Dr. Suresh, who is a relatively new president, those of you who haven't been on campus for a while. So he gave an update on the school, and I think Dan probably told you everything that you probably are interested in hearing about. But anyway, it was a great alumni event. And I would just like to say, Dan did it more eloquently than I could, but that we are grateful for our alumni support, and we can't provide the kind of education that you all got without your support. I inherited a group that with the lowest participation rate, College of Fine Arts of CMU, and Dan Martin hired us and is building up a team to try to change that. So we hope we don't have to be your top philanthropic priority, but if we can be in your top 5 and you can think of us, large or small, every year, we would be most grateful. It impacts our rankings, and it makes a big difference in the quality of the education that we can provide to our students. So we are going to send out an email if it's hard for you to find, with a specific link to make sure it gets to the School of Design and make sure it gets in honor of the amazing Dan Boyarski. So I thank you in advance. And just a final thank you to our hosts. I don't know if Sushma's up there with the camera, and Fred's here somewhere. This is an amazing, amazing get-together, and I thank you guys very, very much for hosting. It's an honor to be here.
If you could all just move just a little, that would be great. And if you want to come around a little bit. I am known as dear friend of Dan. Where are you? Okay, so just open your heart and let it in. It's it's going to be a little emotional, but you can take it. We'll blame it all on Sushma. So I'm Larry Altman, and I've known Dan for over 40 years. Dan and his wife Libby and I all went to grad school in Basel School of Design in the late 70s. And I was there a year before you two walked in, and we've been fast friends, sharing life's events over all these years. And it's really been remarkable to watch the arc of Dan's career and to see how beloved he is. I mean, I told Sushma she should just shadow you, because she would get one beautiful photo after another of people hugging you, and the smiles and the love that you all have for him. So Dan says that he is retiring from Carnegie Mellon School of Design, and you say you're retiring from teaching, but I don't believe it. I don't. Do you? I don't believe it. I think I'm going to kind of go back and forth between my notes, because I want to make sure to cover all the points. I think you're never going to stop, Dan, like when we were in Basel, and Armin Hoffman would say, just looking, just now, standing back, looking some more, looking again, looking close, looking far. When he did that to me after I had worked 3 months on a snowflake poster, he said, a little bit nothing. Oh, you know, I think when you look, and when you do that in crits, you go something like this. Is that right? Something like this, like is that right? Exquisite, like
Handsome.
handsome. He helps me. That's good. In Basel, we were taught to see. We stood on the shoulders of giants, as you all stand on Dan's shoulders. And I don't think that's telling you anything you don't know. We were told to say, to see. We were told, look again. And we had our beloved Kurt Howard also teaching us, right? Who taught us Umsetzung, the ability to translate, right? We would call it maybe illustration, but it was so much more than that. It was being able to see and design the quintessential essence of the communication. Wouldn't you say that's what Dan taught you? When you really, really look. We learn to translate a whole forest into one leaf, right? Into the essence of one leaf. With plaka and patience. Who used plaka in here? I'm just curious. Anybody who's trained using plaka? Okay, there's a few of us still. Yeah. So when we think about how Dan has taught us to see, I was exploring the meaning of the word to see. And I think Dan teaches us to behold the beauty that is around us, that is before us, and that is within us. Dan teaches us to perceive what is visible and what is invisible, so that when we see it, we can solve it, just like he beckoned to us today, standing here before us. Dan has taught us to envision the potential that we will manifest before the form giving and the shape shifting and the time traveling comes the imagination, right? And that's what designers do all day long. Isn't that what we do all day long? I think that's what we do, and that's what we can teach the world. Dan has taught us to be discerning, to be able to examine the truth from, forgive me, alternative facts, and to uphold what is just and merciful. To discern what is filtered by fear and what can be healed by love. Which is to say, everything, of course. To have insight, to pay attention, to be present to this precious moment, this one, unfolding right before our very eyes. To meet. You know the essence of to see, to meet? I see you, like an avatar. I see you. I think that's how. Some of you haven't told us, maybe. No, but that's how Dan relates to us, right? That's how he's been all afternoon. I see you. I see you. I see you. Right? It means to meet. To see the objects and the relationships between them. The kerning between the letters, of course. The image and its meaning, the form and its context. The interaction and something new that emerges because we have met. In our ability to be able to see and to meet each other in time, in motion, in the still point where an embrace can mean that we have found what is more common between us than what is different. And so one day, shortly after my father had died a couple years ago, I'm from Zlionople. I just want you to know that. Maybe some of you went a little bit north of Pittsburgh. And I've been to Carnegie Mellon several times over the many years that Dan's been there, teaching or speaking, whatever. And I was feeling particularly sad one day. Dan and Libby came to my father's memorial. And after that, he sent me this photo, which, for those who can't see, here is the prop. In the photo, there is a nectarine, but I knew there was pear theme and nectarines are not in season. Therefore, we have a red pear to bridge, to create a meeting. So I have printed out for you the poem that is a meeting between Dan and me. Because in the poem that you sent me, I found solace. I found inspiration. I found words. So this is a poem that I'm going to read to you. I've never read it out loud before, and I've shared it with very few. So you can look there, where there is additional meaning, or you can just look here, or you can close your eyes, whatever you want to do. It's called The Encounter, and it's for Dan. I wrote it 3 years ago. Just when sadness overcame me, a month into mourning my father, your loving missive arrived with a Morandi-esque photograph. 2 humble clay bowls echo each other's rough-hewn forms, providing companionship and counterpoint to a red, ripened nectarine. No simple still life this, but a meeting, as sweet as old friends surprised to see each other on a rain-swept street, just as the sun reappears. They cast shadows onto the sage wall and reflections upon the blue ash surface. Subtle spirits bound to their bodies in monochrome tones and muted colors. You have composed a composition between flesh and fired form, taking shape and holding space, the fleeting and the forever. So goes the dialogue of our days. If ever there was a time to encounter each other, it is now. If there is anything that our world needs, it is a sea change in which we see what is true and what is good and what is beautiful. And that's what Dan's been teaching us all along. So, here's to you, Dan, who teaches us to see eye to eye and heart to heart. We love you. Time to give your gratitude to Dan. Say a few words. Maybe say, what's something you remember that you use even to this day? This is your chance. So if you'd like to share, just come on up and tell them. Who's first? Come on.
I'll be first. I've had many design professors, many design teachers.
Oh, can you come out? Can you come out?
Can you go
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Doug, you gotta get up on the table.
Your enthusiasm and cheerfulness is infectious, and that will always come through. And so you talk about the eye, the mind, and the spirit, heart. You have that in double. So thanks for all that.
Thank you, Doug.
Next. And you project when you come up. Don't make me come get you. I have no problem doing it.
So,
Fred.
first of all,
Fred,
thanks
can you come out here?
Get a hot spot.
There we go.
Everybody, thanks for coming out today on Saturday afternoon. It was supposed to be overcast, but it's not. It's sunny and it's beautiful. It's really fantastic to see so many people here. I just have to ask, does anybody remember happy hours in the rotunda?
Yes.
Everybody who is, okay. So in Baker Hall, as you go through, there's the spiral staircase, right? Well, up the top, I don't know what department's there now, but when we were there, it was the design department. And every other Friday, we used to have these amazing happy hours where this wonderful woman, Jenny Bell, people remember Jenny Bell, would organize a keg or two, and we had these fantastic happy hours. And I'm hoping that we're recreating this here, and maybe we'll have more in the years to come. So treat this as the Rotunda happy hour, okay? I never had Dan as a professor, much to my chagrin. I tried to take a couple courses, but I was discriminated against. I went on to do a master's degree at Stanford, and I had a professor there, Dave Beach, who was in charge of the manufacturing systems. He ran and pretty much anything to do with product design. He was the guy in the center of it. And I learned so much from him, and so many people in the Bay Area and having to do with product design benefited from his wisdom and his dogged pursuit of perfection. And I always said that all of the executive groups all up and down Silicon Valley should all line up one day and kiss his ass because he was that kind of person, and they didn't even know that he existed, but he had such a huge impact on their ability to deliver product and make things work. And I got to say, I think that Dan falls into that category. So I think, Jane, that you ought to organize a memo, and we'll send it out to all the executive teams up and down the peninsula, and we can organize an ass kissing. I think we have to give credit where it's due. And I also want to make a note that Tim Cunningham is here today, and we're really, really happy to see him. And we can organize a second ass kissing for you as well. Okay? But anyhow, everybody, thanks for coming, and carry on.
I got one. Look, there's another one.
So yeah, I just graduated. Oh yeah, I'm Antonio. I graduated just a couple years ago from the communication design program, and I think the thing that I'm always gonna keep from Dan is sensitivity and sensitivity to every detail. Every detail matters. Sensitivity to every person, every part of your audience. The sensitivity to just how all of the smallest elements come together into the things that we're all working to create to produce an impact. I think that Dan did just bring a sensitivity into, or just view, I think, in a lot of the students, the importance of sensitivity, but also himself was able to look at all of the work we produce and grasp that one little thread that was holding the whole thing together and tell us to run with it. Yeah, it's just been, I guess, I had two very important classes with Dan in introductory typography and in motion design, and every day in my work and just in my life in general, I'm thinking about a lot of those lessons and being able to dive in and sort of retain that sensitivity to detail and to thinking about the people that are impacted by the things that we make. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So I'm sure we all have like the amazing Dan moment or the aha moment or just a quote that he said during class that we remember. For me, I always went to Dan's office hours when I felt I was stuck. So it wasn't even Dan's class. It was a project project in some other classes, and I would go and say, this is where I see the, I keep using that, this is where I see the wall now. This is, can you come out to the center? Thank you. So, my name is Kim. I graduated in 2013. And, I didn't have Dan as an advisor, but I feel like he was my unofficial advisor because I always went to his office hours when I felt stuck, and he always brought me back to what was fun about design and what I should be curious about. And I still do that today. I'm no longer, I went from being a designer to a researcher, and now I'm going to try designing conversations for a while, and like the thread of what Dan taught is always going to be there. It doesn't matter what how it manifests.
Hey, my name is Ed, and I graduated in 97 or 99, and I had Dan for a couple of different courses in typography motion class. I just want to say that you showed a lot of patience to us. This was back when we didn't know what computer we were going to be using to present our work on, and the Quadros ran faster than other programs, and so we would spend the first 10 minutes of the class trying to tweak our sound and design, and you just showed a lot of patience to all of us and understood that this was a work in progress. And I think as you talking about this discovery that we were doing, that we weren't going to get it right every time, and that it was okay, that we could kind of all work on this together, and that eventually this was going to become something. But I just remember that there was a lot of discovery that we were doing at the time, and you showed a lot of heart and patience with us, so thank you very much. Thank you.
My name is Javier. I actually didn't go to CMU. I'm here, but I met Dan in Costa Rica. He went down there to give a typography workshop. So we met. I only had him for one short workshop, but we became good friends. We went for a coffee, and then I transferred to San Jose State. I'm majoring in graphic design. I'm in my senior year. But last year I went to visit him in Pittsburgh, and I stayed with him, his wife Levy, for a whole weekend. And I think that, yeah, I didn't have Dan as a professor for too long, but I think that what I appreciate the most is his friendship. And I think that even though he wasn't like my actual professor, he's always teaching. He's always telling you how to see things differently and how to appreciate those details and how to read things. So I just want to share my story and thank you, Dan, for your friendship, and hope you the best for the future.
Thank you.
So I had Dan for a couple of years. I know time, motion, and communication was one of the hardest classes to get into. Everyone was fighting to get into that class. So once we were in there, you know, we've all had teachers forget about students' names or kind of not really care as much to every student, but Dan, you cared so much about each and every one of us, and even if we knew that our project sucked, you kind of kept going. You just said, no, let's talk about why you think this way, and like you really, yeah, showed that care. So thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Brett Snyder, and I graduated in '95, and I was very lucky to be able to somehow convince Dan with a couple of colleagues to do a thesis, and I think it was in a time he wasn't doing thesis, and he was really gracious to do that. And I think just a couple of things I'd say is he was one of the teachers that had us close our eyes and listen to music and bring that in as a part of visual design, which I thought was amazing and has lived with me. And now 10 years into a teaching career for myself, I often think of how these students really are not really learning from me, they're really learning from Dan. And I think that that's something that the tree is much bigger than even our department and Carnegie Mellon. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Kira. I graduated in 1998, and I have a story about Dan. I remember I actually came from art. I started studying art after high school, and I was working. I've been doing collage work all my life, actually ever since I was a little kid. And in art school, I became very should do design because I'm very detail oriented here. I then went to learn more that design, the difference between design and art. But I remember bringing my collages and showing Dan in this portfolio day, and I wasn't really sure what the connection was yet between my collage and design work, but he saw something in that, and he really inspired such confidence in me. And it was I feel like every time now, whenever I see him too, it's this thing that I hear amongst the audience, that there's this definite connection that he has with every single person that I think is really unique, that he does see very deeply, and it's really a wonderful gift, so thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Ah.
Wait a second. Stop the presses. Hey, I'm Jim from 1987. And supposedly he started my freshman year. And he's a great teacher and everything like that. But I would just like to tell you that I'd like to thank you. It's been a long time ago, 31 years ago that I graduated. And I don't have a lot of connections to things from 31 years ago beyond my family and even school. But because of the way the person you are, you have maintained that connection for me. You've always been available. The most amazing thing to me is that 30, 40 years, in addition to even more from CMU, of classes have come through, and yet you seem to know everyone, you remember our names, you seem to recognize us when we're in disguise, you respond to emails, you can even bring up things you've talked that happened 30 so many years ago, and I think that's kind of amazing. And beyond being a teacher, as a human, I've encountered very few people that this amount of energy and love kind of centers around. And I'd like to thank you.
My name is Arnold Wasserman, and I'm a graduate from the early Jurassic era of the design department. I'm observing what's going on here, and I'm struck by how, at this moment in our civilization, with so much discussion about power and who has it and who should have it, that what we're witnessing here is what I would call an enactment of true civilizational power. Because the definition of civilization is the transmission of culture from one generation to the next. And that is the moment in which we are all present here, thanks to Dan. One of the great hazards of coming to Northern California is that you're likely to become a victim of unprovoked hugs.
We could just start the shoe for hugs. But first, such mom.
A word from our sponsor.
And photographer.
So, I actually have the ability to be concise, so I'm going to pull it down. Everyone who really knows me knows how much I love poetry. And it really occurred to me a while ago that my first great master haiku poetry teacher was Dan. And there are so many things to say about Dan, and The Party is my poem for Dan. So I want to take home no food, and I hope everybody really enjoys, and I think that this is a tremendous
drink?
What is so good? Okay, so over to you, to Dan, to do it in an intimate way. Thank you all for sharing your love and gratitude with Dan and for coming out to honor this amazing, amazingly civilized transfer of culture. All right, enjoy yourselves.
So
Get some
can
food.
you flip the whiteboard and put it in the middle? I've gotten a couple of these things and I only talk to people that I know. So I kind of have a bee in my bonnet. I think in the last hour it would be so nice just for everyone to go and meet someone that you don't know. And just to try to pop on the back just so we can all date ourselves. I just did a little thing. Where are you now? If anybody wants a picture with Dan, I'll do it in front of the whiteboard.
All right.
Let's see.